the video evidence. There's nothing like that in this statement of the facts. Now, I want to, for the people who have this, and I'm sorry for the people who didn't, I just want to read some of this out loud, and just to show how, you know, this is supposed to be the statement of facts on our side, and it's completely contradictory and makes no sense. So the paragraph I'm going to read from is on page 2 of this, and it's the second paragraph, and it's describing when Messerly comes on the scene and what occurred to prompt the arrest, the stopping of the people and the holding them. It says at this point they've said that Perone has already come. He's stopped 3 people in the beginning. He's gone on the train. He's gotten Oscar Grant and Michael Greer off, according to this. And it says in the beginning, Oscar Grant wasn't resisting. So now we're at the point where Messerly arrives. At this point, several additional officers, including Officer Messerly, arrived on the platform. These additional officers assisted in controlling the detainees and a number of persons who had gotten off the train and were yelling at the police and approaching the detainees' location on the platform. So he's saying that they're detained, not arrested, even though they can't possibly leave. They're under arrest. When you're held for more than 6 minutes and you can't leave an area, you're under arrest. You're not just being detained. When you're handcuffed, you're pressed against a wall, or you know that you're going to be tackled or shot or tasered by some cop if you try to walk away, you're under arrest. You're not just being detained. Okay. Officer Peroni walked to the lead car, this is of the train, and spoke to the train operator to determine if she was aware of the identity of any victims or persons involved in fighting on the train. The train operator said the detainees had caused a disturbance on the train, but she was unable to see any of the actual fighting because the car was so crowded. If she couldn't see the fighting, how did she know that these were the people? Okay? She also said no one had identified themselves to her as a victim of a battery. So no one's told her that they were hit. She hasn't seen the fight. Because she hasn't seen the fight, she can't possibly have seen who was involved in a fight. She doesn't even know that there was a fight because no one's even come up and told her that there was a fight. And according to this, they've got the right 5 people. To me, if you're reading this and you're thinking, this is who's defending us, and his whole vantage point is from the standpoint that the police were right in who they had from the beginning, doesn't seem like they're on our side. Okay. Then it said, Peroni walked back to where the detainees were located, pointed to both Greer and Oscar Grant, and told Officer Messerly that both men were under arrest for a 148 PC, okay, for, fighting on the train, disturbance on the train. How in the world did he decide that Oscar Grant and Greer were those 2 people? He didn't, according to this, have any evidence to back that up. Oscar Grant attempted to stand up. Officer Messerly grabbed Grant and forced him to the platform floor face down. Both Peroni and Messerly told Grant he was under arrest and to put his hands behind his back. Grant resisted, and Peroni knelt in front of Grant's head and put his hand on Grant's neck and back in an effort to forcibly hold Grant down. Messerly straddled Grant's lower body, bent over, and began pulling on his arms. According to Peroni, Messerly told Grant to stop resisting and put your hands behind your back. Okay. When we look through these videos, and we can only show them in half speed, but as we expand out and get more, able to get the resources to do these, to look at these tapes more professionally, you're going to see, and the prosecutor admits this later in this brief, that it looks like Oscar's hands are secured and behind his back. That's what it looks like. Okay, now, when we get into some of the rest of this, it just becomes completely absurd, but Peroni tells Messerly, I'm going to tase him. I can't get his arms. Peroni then heard Messerly say, he won't give me his arms. His hands are going for his waistband. When you see one of the videos, you're going to see, and I think this is where it comes, this actual phrase comes from. Whenever you're reading anything by a cop, you want to ask yourself, what is it that they're referring to that they know a jury or anyone else is going to see, and they're trying to put their spin on it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you see is Messerly looks like he's pulling Oscar's pants down. It looks like Oscar's hands are secured in one of the videos, and Messerly is either patting him down. You're kind of like, what the hell is he doing? But it's on his belt area. And I think this thing about his hands are going for his waistband is to try to explain away why it is that Messerly's feeling on his waistband. Peroni then heard Messerly say, Tony, get away, back up. As Peroni released his grip on Grant and began to stand up, he heard a single gunshot. Peroni saw Messerly's unholstered handgun and observed that Grant was lying face down on the platform with a single gunshot wound in the middle of his back. Grant was handcuffed after he was shot. That's presented as a definitive statement of fact. Okay, now we're going to read the next version of Peroni's story, which is just the next paragraph. Officer Peroni said he did not immediately react to Messerly's warning to back up and was still holding on to Grant's upper body when Messerly stood up and drew his firearm. Okay, in the very paragraph before, he's saying that he had released his grip on Grant and, was off of him, and that's why he could hear the gunshot and then immediately see the unholstered gun. And that's to explain one video. Now he's got to explain the other video. So he's got to come up with a different story. So in the second story, he says he's practically still securing him when the guy gets, when Messerly stands up. Peroni said he was surprised by Messerly's act of drawing and firing his weapon. But in the paragraph before, he said that he was going to tase him. So, okay, he might have been surprised that he was being shot, but he wasn't surprised, if you believe the paragraph before, that something was going to happen. Because he's saying in the paragraph before, he expected at least the weapon of the taser to be drawn and for Grant to be tasered. So this is a different story. Peroni also said that Messerly approached him several minutes after Grant had been shot and told him, Tony, I thought he was going for a gun. However, Messerly never said anything to Peroni about a gun during his attempt to gain control of Grant's hands, and Grant was unarmed when he was shot. So, the other thing I just want to point out about these two paragraphs is none of this is Messerly's report. All of this is Peroni's report. All of it comes from him. We still haven't heard a word from Messerly in this, and you can bet your behind that the prosecutor has his written statement too. He's got 690 pages worth of written statements, police reports, eyewitness reports, but his report is, his statement of facts is based exclusively on Peroni's report. There's not